Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Communications, serving Southern Indiana with high-speed fiber gigabit internet. Smithville Fiber Gigabit Technology. Tap the power.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk, we're reminded what a global world we live in.
Our ability to stop Ebola in the United States is directly related to our ability to stop Ebola in Africa.
In West Africa, more than 8,000 miles from the Hoosier state, an estimated 4,000 people have died from Ebola. Healthcare workers are dying faster than their patients. Ahead, an Indiana doctor back from Liberia explains his experience. The number of craft breweries in Indiana has doubled in just the last couple of years.
People's tastes are changing. They're looking for more, not just local, but more flavorful things.
Can the market support the increasing number of breweries, and what effect is it having on the big brewers? Those stories plus the latest on this week's top headlines right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Hello, I'm Joe Wren and welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. President Obama today tapped Joe Biden's former chief of staff to head U.S. efforts to fight Ebola. Ron Klain is also an Indianapolis native. He was born there and graduated from North Central High School. Obama's decision is the latest step in the country's efforts to control the Ebola epidemic. Medical experts are emphasizing it's unlikely the U.S. will experience an outbreak here, but that doesn't mean Americans shouldn't be concerned. As Barbara Harrington reports, 2 Indiana University doctors were in Liberia earlier this year as the outbreak started, and they saw firsthand how deadly the disease can be.
Adama Dabo doesn't have much spare time.
My concentration is public health administration, and also I'm doing my second master's in African studies.
She spends most of her time studying. Dabo came to Indiana University about 4 years ago, and her passion for helping people seems to run in the family.
My mom and my older brother work at the hospital. Both are medical doctors.
They're working in her native country of Guinea, where the Centers for Disease Control says more than 1,000 cases of Ebola have been reported. The medical professionals tasked with treating the disease run a high risk of contracting it themselves.
They are a little bit worried about, the risk of contamination because some of their colleagues, got the disease. Some died and others survived. So where they are working right now, that environment is a little bit risky.
It's especially risky because West Africa has a severe shortage of healthcare workers and medical supplies, making containing Ebola difficult.
The health system collapsed because healthcare workers didn't have any protective equipment. And, almost at the very beginning, a fair number of them contracted and died of Ebola. And, the rest of the health workers there got the message, gee, we don't have anything to keep us from getting Ebola. I'm not going into work.
Indiana University hosted a forum earlier this week focusing specifically on the outbreak in Liberia, where the CDC reports more than 4,000 cases of Ebola. The co-directors of IU's Disaster Medicine Fellowship program recently traveled to the country to help hospitals identify their vulnerabilities and determine how to respond in the event of a crisis. Their work wasn't supposed to be focused on Ebola, but that changed when the first case came into Liberia's JFK hospital where they were working.
This patient ended up being in the hospital for 6 hours, and subsequently he died shortly after we recognized that he probably did have Ebola and tried to move him to isolation. And subsequently, 2 of the doctors who handled that patient, or actually 3 of the doctors who handled that patient, ended up contracting Ebola from handling that patient, and only one of those 3 doctors survived.
After that, they tried to restrict access to the hospital and track down all of the people the infected man came into contact with during his 6 hours there. That proved to be difficult.
We had a couple of janitors who were helping move the body, and we couldn't even get their names because I don't think anybody actually knew their names. And so we could not effectively trace who those people were and whether they ended up becoming symptomatic and needed to get treatment later on down the road.
Hospitals in the United States are now working to make sure they're adequately prepared to treat Ebola. In some cases, that means training staff on proper protocols and reviewing quarantine procedures.
We should not be surprised that diseases affecting other countries will affect us, and we should take reasonable precautions every day.
3 cases of Ebola have been confirmed in the U.S. A man traveling from West Africa to Dallas died at Texas Presbyterian Hospital earlier this month, but not before infecting 2 people who were treating him. While the incident is cause for concern, Assistant Dean for Operations and Community Partnerships at the Indiana University School of Nursing, Chad Priest, says there's no reason to panic. He says fears of Ebola becoming an epidemic in the United States are overblown.
We will not have a large outbreak of Ebola in the United States, but we will have a large outbreak of something. We will have another serious epidemic in the United States.
I think there's much more important things that we need to be concerned about as a country. We need to be concerned about the influenza that happens every year. We need to be concerned about measles that's making a comeback. We need to be concerned about enterovirus, which is affecting our kids in the Midwest. So I think there's other things that will probably have a bigger impact in the U.S., but it's certainly understandable that people are afraid of Ebola.
Mughal and Priest say that fear should be funneled into action. While Ebola may not pose a large threat to the United States, they say countries have a responsibility to step in and help stop the outbreak.
Our ability to stop Ebola in the United States is directly related to our ability to stop Ebola in Africa. And that's going to be the same for the next pandemic influenza, wherever it emerges. We're just going to have to get more comfortable as a nation going overseas and viewing that help to those places as more than just charity, but really part of our survival.
We have the resources to help them, and not to help them would be, just morally a difficult position to maintain when you're able to help.
It's a message Dabo is taking to heart as she prepares to graduate in May. She feels a responsibility to go back to Africa and help her people, even if it means putting her own health at risk.
We know there is a shortage in terms of health professionals, in terms of a lot of things. So maybe we can impact our community.
Doctors say Ebola is difficult to catch. It can be spread through bodily fluids, infected animals, or contaminated objects like syringes. There is no FDA-approved treatment for the disease. Now, for headlines, we go to Alex Dirkman, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thank you, Joe. The Indiana Attorney General's office is warning same-sex couples who got married in a narrow window in June that their marriages may not be valid. Couples were allowed to marry for 2 days in June before a district court ruling striking down Indiana's ban on same-sex marriage was put on hold. According to state law, couples have 60 days after getting a marriage license to solemnize that marriage. Then they have to return the license to the county clerk within 30 days, and the clerk's office has to record it. The Attorney General's office says it's very possible that one of those steps wasn't followed for all the marriages given the complicated legal status surrounding those marriages. So couples should check with their county to see if their marriages are valid and get a new license if needed. The online consumer review company Angie's List plans to expand its Indianapolis headquarters, adding hundreds of new jobs. Governor Mike Pence praised the decision to expand the company operations in Indianapolis, saying it represents a trend of tech-based companies thriving in Indiana. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation will provide Angie's List up to $6.5 million in conditional tax credits and $500,000 in training grants that are contingent on the company meeting its job creation goals. Overall, Angie's List expects to invest $40 million into the project. This announcement comes after the company laid off nearly 100 workers in August and restructured its debt in September. Instead of sentencing offenders to jail or prison, a new mental health court in Monroe County aims to find more community-based and individual treatment plans for those with mental illness. Judge Ken Todd says the mental health court has several goals.
One is certainly keeping the jail population under control, but more importantly, to find appropriate environments for people who are there not so much because of their own making, but because of disorders that they suffer from that brings them into contact with police agencies and others and result in them being in jail.
Judge Todd says there's a definite need for more mental health courts because people with some sort of mental illness make up about 20% of Indiana's prison population. Indiana University President Michael McRobbie outlined a 5-year plan in his annual State of the University address Tuesday. The plan identifies 7 priorities for the university, including keeping costs low for students, aligning academic offerings with workplace needs, and expanding international engagement. McRobbie says the lack of programs in design and engineering at IU Bloomington also needs to be addressed.
We are one of only 2 universities out of the 60 top universities in America who do not have programs in engineering. And I think it has really, in some ways, held us back from reaching our full potential to provide the best opportunities to our students and to fully utilize the results of our research in the university.
In an effort to spur conversation about a new program, McRobbie is calling for the creation of an outside committee to assess the option of creating an IT-based systems engineering program at the university's Bloomington campus. A group of northern Indiana residents plans to appeal a Department of Natural Resources order that requires them to begin repairs on 6 dams in their neighborhood by the end of the month. The residents of Hidden Hills in Miami County have consulted engineers who say repairing the dams would cost $250,000 per dam. The DNR's order was an attempt to end a battle that has been going on for about a year. Following the appeal, an administrative law judge will hear the case and decide who is responsible for the dam's repairs. The director of the Transportation Safety Administration is set to become president of Anderson University. John Pistol announced his retirement yesterday after 4 years as TSA administrator. Anderson University also announced that a search committee is recommending Pistol be the school's new president. Pistol is an Anderson native and an Anderson University alum. If his nomination is approved, he would replace James Edwards, who's been president of the university since 1990 and is retiring at the end of the school year. Indiana farmers can now start using a new herbicide designed to kill weeds in fields of genetically modified corn and soybeans. The weed killer, called Enlist Duo, is made by the Indianapolis-based chemical company Dow AgroSciences. Environmental groups have strongly opposed the product, pointing to research that has shown a correlation between pesticides and diseases such as lymphoma and Parkinson's. The EPA counters that its scientists use, quote, highly conservative and protective assumptions to evaluate both human health and ecological risks. The herbicide is being allowed in 6 states, including Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. And representatives for Seven Oaks Classical School say they will reapply for a charter in January of 2015. Leaders for the proposed Monroe County Charter School made the announcement on Facebook a day after the Indiana Charter School Board denied their original application. The Charter Board cited concerns with the group's financial and operational expertise. But Joe, the group will have another chance to go before the Charter School Board next year, and they say that they plan to open in the fall of 2016.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
Yes.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Republican leaders at the Indiana Statehouse lay out their priorities for the upcoming legislative session. We talked to our Statehouse reporter about plans to boost education funding across the board. Craft brew sales increased nearly 20% in the last year alone. New craft breweries are popping up across Indiana, begging the question, is the market becoming oversaturated? And we go back 60 years to what was making the news in our History Through Headlines segment. More about distinguished alumni Ernie Pyle and why he's still making the news today. These stories right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
We are a nation of explorers. We seek new ways of living, of thinking, and of expressing ourselves. We take risks, we learn from experience, and we keep moving forward. That's why we encourage and celebrate the explorer in all of us.
Frontline provides me with information that makes me think.
First I shout at the television. You gotta be kidding!
You won't see this anywhere else.
The stories hit close to home.
Truth is a very valuable commodity.
They're uncompromising.
I want to do something. I want to take action.
It changed the way I actually live my life. It lets me make up my mind. I trust it.
When I watch Frontline,
It makes me angry and it makes me want to voice it.
I want to make a difference.
We can make a difference.
Frontline.
These guys are my heroes.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The Indiana House Republicans this week outlined their agenda for the upcoming legislative session that starts in January. Their priorities include boosting funding for public education, reducing the state's infant mortality rate, and changing their ethics rules. All this can get a little complicated, so to break it down for us, we turn to our Statehouse reporter, Brandon Smith, who is in his office at the Capitol. Hi, Brandon. Let's start first with education. We're talking about, it's a budget year, talking a lot about money. What are some of the changes that we might see there?
Well, this is a two-pronged effort. The House Republicans say they want to increase public education funding overall, and they also want to address the state's funding formula. Now, every school gets a base amount. The funding formula determines how much extra money they get, and that relies heavily on the number of low-income students. The GOP says the disparity between the schools getting the most and the schools getting the least is too big.
So how much money are we talking about there?
Well, we don't know yet what House Republicans will seek in terms of an overall increase in their budget. And Speaker Brian Bosman didn't want to get too specific when it comes to the sorts of changes he'd like to see in the funding formula, but the current disparity between the highest and lowest funded schools is about $4,000.
How is the state superintendent reacting to this plan?
Well, Superintendent Glenda Ritz recently asked the legislature to boost education funding by 30%. She says that money would go towards textbooks, which parents currently have to pay for. Now, she's not likely to get that much, but we did catch up with her at a recent State Board of Education meeting to get her reaction. Here's what she had to say.
I guess I'm hoping, number one, we get more money to our schools, and second of all, I'm always about making sure that we've got fair ways of making sure our schools are getting money for their students.
So it seems like that she's in agreement with the GOP plan. We'll have to wait and see how that turns about in the upcoming months. GOP leaders also say they want to address the state's infant mortality rate. I believe right now it's 7 deaths per 1,000 babies. That ranks Indiana in the bottom 10 nationally. What are we going to see there?
Well, the State Department of Health has made addressing infant mortality one of its priorities, a top priority for years, and they are about to unveil a big public relations campaign aimed at educating mothers. But the House GOP wants to engage the private and nonprofit sectors because they believe they will do a better job of curbing infant deaths.
And Republicans are also saying that they will address domestic violence. What can we see there?
Well, there's been a lot of attention, obviously, on domestic violence in the wake of incidents in the NFL, and Indiana shelters report seeing as much as a 70% increase in the need for services. House Republicans say they will seek a funding increase in their budget.
And lastly, any changes to the ethics code?
Right, well, this goes back to a recent scandal with GOP Representative Eric Turner. We don't know exactly what the ethics reform will look like, but it will likely involve greater financial disclosure.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you, Joe.
It's hard to imagine you've ever been faced with more options than going out to pick up a six-pack. In addition to the traditional domestic beers, you might find 50 or 60 craft beers on the shelf to choose from. Overall, beer sales are down, but craft beer sales are up more than 17%. Gretchen Frazee reports on what's driving the growth and whether it's sustainable when it seems like another craft brewery pops up every day.
In Indiana, the cup runneth over. The craft beer industry has grown by nearly 20% in the last year.
People's tastes are changing. They're looking for more, not just local, but more flavorful things.
Craft beer accounted for nearly 8% of sales last year, according to the Brewers Association. Steve Llewellyn brewed beer for himself for about 8 years before opening this small brew pub in Bloomington with his wife in January. They don't bottle their beer or even sell growlers for takeout. They stay busy just trying to keep up with the brew pub's business.
At this point, it's a really exhausting way to make a living because we are so small that we are doing everything ourselves that we can.
But that also means the Llewellyns know every detail about their beers and can talk to their customers about it. By definition, craft brewers produce fewer than 6 million barrels of beer a year. But they're also known for their innovation, their use of non-traditional ingredients, and their involvement in their communities and interactions with their customers.
Much in the same way as people go to farmers markets to buy their produce for the week, you go to a local company like Upland or Bloomington Brewing or Function, you fill up your growler, you can often speak with the brewer who made the beer that you're taking home. And that's a point of pride for a lot of brewers.
Upland is just a couple streets over from Function in Bloomington and has been brewing craft beer since 1998. Like Function, Upland started small, but now the brewery employs more than 160 people, and the beers winding through this assembly line could be destined to any of the 5 states where Upland distributes its beer.
Our new production brewery, where we're at right now today, it will this year pump out about 16,000 brewers barrels of beer, which is, if we bottled it, we'll do about 1.5 million bottles of beer this year in what we package. So it's been fun.
And Schmidt says there's still a lot of room for Indiana's craft brewing industry to grow.
Right now we are at almost 100 craft breweries in the state, but surprisingly the market saturation of craft beer is only about 5 or 6%. So that means only about 1 out of every 20 people who's going to their store to buy beer is buying the local craft option.
Miller Coors and Anheuser-Busch InBev together still control about 75% of beer sales in the U.S., but their sales are shrinking a bit because of the craft movement. According to a recent report in Bloomberg's Business Week, domestic light beer sales will hit a 10-year low in 2015. The big companies have responded by buying up some of these smaller craft breweries and by creating new products.
They've done some really smart things to copy some of the ideas coming out of the craft brewing movement. So whether it's Blue Moon on one side, which is a Coors product, Shock Top, which is Anheuser-Bev trying to emulate Blue Moon. The Leinenkugel's family brewery was bought by Miller, and so it's now part of that much bigger brewing conglomerate.
We have, our Sun King.
At the 21st Amendment liquor store in Indianapolis, Tyler Pontius has to work with a limited amount of cooler space. Ultimately, he's going to stock what he thinks people will buy, but that's gotten trickier to determine with the increase in craft brews.
Some people now they're going to grab their 12-pack of Bud Light or Coors Light or Miller Light, and instead of getting a case of that, they're getting the 12-pack, and then they're going to grab 2 6-packs of different craft beers.
Pontius says price is still the sticking point for a lot of his customers. Domestic beers are typically $1 or $2 less expensive, and he says often that's enough to sway them away from craft brews.
And the competition keeps growing, not just between domestic and craft beers, but between the craft breweries themselves. About 20 new breweries opened in Indiana between 2011 and 2013, according to the Beer Institute. Another dozen or so are opening this year, and that will bring the total to more than 75 craft breweries in the state. And now we take a look back at what was making the news in our History Through Headlines segment. It was October 1954. The New York Giants beat the Cleveland Indians in the World Series. Dwight D. Eisenhower was in his first term as president. The #1 single was Hey There by Rosemary Clooney. And Indiana University dedicated a building to one of their distinguished alumni. The headline reads, New IU Journalism Building Dedicated. The building was named after famous former wartime reporter Ernie Pyle. The ceremony included presentations of honorary degrees to 5 newspaper editors and publishers, including Roy W. Howard from the company that owned the Washington Daily News, the paper Pyle wrote for.
But it was a very distinguished group. You never see in IU history 5 people getting honorary degrees at the same time.
Pyle served in the United States Navy Reserve during World War I. He then attended Indiana University and became an editor of the Indiana Daily Student. He left 1 semester shy of graduation to work at the paper in LaPorte, Indiana, before finally moving to Washington, D.C. and working for the Washington Daily News.
He represented to the American public the best newspaper reports from the war front. Soldiers told their parents to read Ernie Pyle. parents told their sons and daughters to read Ernie Pyle.
Pyle was killed while on assignment in the Pacific Theater on April 18, 1945, after being hit by Japanese machine gun fire. A monument was erected on the spot of his death that says, "At this spot, the 77th Infantry Division lost a buddy, Ernie Pyle." And if you haven't seen it, there's a new statue of Ernie Pyle outside the journalism's new home, Franklin Hall. It shows Pyle at his typewriter, much like he would have appeared when out in the field. But there is a slight problem with the statue. The word correspondent is misspelled on a patch in his arm. University officials say they are working with the artist to determine how they might be able to fix the bronze sculpture. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we continue to cover the news in Southern Indiana throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Communications, serving Southern Indiana with high-speed fiber gigabit internet. Smithville Fiber Gigabit Technology. Tap the power.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.